What are you hearing so far at this conference? What is it getting you to think about, or just your take home from what you're experiencing?
Well, the conference has been really exciting. There's been an immense amount of interesting research that's been presented, both basic and more clinical. I'm actually been very impressed by the breadth of the information being conveyed here, really spanning everything from animal studies to in vitro molecular studies to human studies.
Great. Now tell me about what you're doing, and specifically about this giant award that you won.
Yeah, well, my main focus is on finding ways of evaluating how rapidly the disease is progressing in a given person. So one of the real challenges in figuring out whether a drug, for example, is going to be working or not is detecting whether it's slowing the progression of the disease down. Now, one way of doing that is simply to see whether it helps prolong life. And when the one drug that's been approved for ALS, riluzole, was shown to be effective, it was shown to be effective in actually extending life. But since then, there's been an increasing focus on actually showing evidence that a drug can slow disease progression. And obviously, if it slows progression, it should prolong life as well. My focus is on finding a new measure to do that more effectively, so that we can do drug trials instead of over a year, say over 6 or even over 3 months, with very few patients.
What are you finding so far?
Well, the technique that I've been developing for over a decade now, electrical impedance myography, is seeming to be very effective in doing that. It's still being developed to some extent, but it is actually the data we've already collected has demonstrated an excellent ability to identify disease progression, and some studies we've done have suggested that we can really cut down the size of studies, meaning fewer patients, and also doing it in a much shorter period of time.
Where do you imagine this going?
Well, my hope is that we'll be able to start using this technique more widely in therapeutic trials widely in ALS. It may not initially be something that we can get FDA approval on, for example, but the hope is that we can sort of screen drugs more quickly to see whether they're going to be effective or not in helping saving lives with people with ALS.
Oh, that's wonderful. Tell me about the big honor that you received.
Well, I received a $1 million prize from Prize for Life for my work in developing this biomarker, EIM, electrical impedance myography, and showing that it actually did serve as an effective marker of disease progression in ALS.
So, so many people that are going to be watching this later on will be like, well, what does that mean for me? How soon is there going to be a cure? Everybody wants to know about a cure. And, what I'm hearing from this conference is maybe it's not a cure. Maybe it's just stopping the progression or finding the cause or, so where do you see all of this going? What kind of momentum are you seeing in this field of research, and what more needs to be done?
Well, there has been quite a bit of momentum. I think people are looking at ALS from many different perspectives, which is, I think, really important because the disease may have many different origins, and to just go after one aspect of that may be a mistake. And I think people realize that now, and I think we're really casting a very wide net in terms of mechanisms for what actually causes the disease. What does that mean? Well, I really do think it means we're going to start seeing treatments out there in the near future. I really do believe that. I mean, it's hard not to walk away from a meeting like this and not feel very encouraged that there's some really valuable science going on there with real meaningful results in the near future.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And if everything could go your way, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? I mean, when do you think somebody could see something tangible come out of all of this?
I think we're going to see. A drug or other therapy that has marked impact in the disease, certainly within the next 5 to 10 years.
Wow, that is so wonderful.
And I'm not saying it's going to cure the disease, but to certainly slow the progression or maybe help stall it. I think we're going to see something like that soon.
We're just understanding it better.
Right.
We're just making leaps and bounds in the genetic, understanding of it, right?
Yes.
Finding the genes and the proteins.
Yeah, and the genes, the mechanisms, the complex molecular biology that's going on that undoubtedly causes it.
That's really exciting what you said.
Oh, good.
And,
Okay.
and I'm just getting that vibe from everybody, so it's really great. Yeah. And before we used to hear, it was definitely different. Before we used to hear, it takes a long time. It's just a complicated process, and that's all we would hear.
Right. Yeah, well, I think the other exciting
And now
thing
we're
is,
hearing, you know what?
Yeah.
We're onto something.
Right. Well, I also think there's a lot of companies, a lot of pharmaceutical companies in the space now, which makes a big difference because there's a lot of people invested in it.
Yeah.
So literally.
That's good. And see, for the longest time, we thought that pharmaceuticals didn't care because ALS population is so small compared to the cancers or
But the thing is that there's been all the big diseases have been sort of their therapies, cholesterol, their therapies. So now people are going after these little things and realizing there's a real market.
But what about cancer? Wasn't there supposed to be a cure for cancer a long time ago?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Anyway, it's wonderful to meet you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.